Hello and welcome to the Spiggle Law podcast, where we help people who've been fired or afraid they might be and share cutting edge employment law issues in the news. I'm thrilled today to be joined by one of our senior attorneys, Samantha Vanterpool Rucker, who has been a repeat guest on this program, and I'm always thrilled to have her because she always has great insights. I know today, Samantha, you want to talk about the EEOC's effort to reach underserved communities, which
Yes,
I think is a
please.
great topic. But before we do that, just some quick legalese. For those of you listening, this does not create an attorney-client relationship with our firm, nor is it intended to be legal advice. If you want a lawyer, then you got it. You should hire one. So with that out of the way, Samantha, tell me what the EEOC's got going on and why you think it's important.
Well, I'm happy to be here to join you again, Tom. And the interesting thing is, I've been getting a spate of cases where I'm working with clients who defense counsel has characterized as low income earners, and also have a case where she's an immigrant and English is her second language. She's a native Spanish speaker. And it sort of got me thinking, as far as these, what we would call underserved communities, what are they getting in terms of information regarding anti-discrimination laws, the EEOC process, et cetera, et cetera? It's fortunate that my clients have found their way to the Spiggle law firm and we're able to help them. What about these underserved communities? Coincidentally, I ran into an article with the Virginia Lawyers Weekly that spoke about what the EEOC is trying to do. They're trying to reach these communities. And in fact, the new commissioner, who is a descendant of an immigrant, by the way, and she's the descendant of immigrant Indian parents, has made it her number one mission to reach out to underserved communities. She has instituted what's called the REACH program, and the program has two parts to it. According to the article, at least, the first part is to gather information to sort of send out this mass email, so to speak, to stakeholders. It's sort of like a listening exercise. Tell me what's wrong with the system. Tell me what's broken. How can we fix it to reach people who are underserved? And after that is done, then the information is gathered. There's research done as far as finding tools that would help the commission reach out to these communities. And that information is presented to the EEOC commissioner. And the interesting part about the article also is how they define the underserved community. They focused on older individuals, individuals with learning disabilities, mental disabilities. And the interesting fact is they're also making a concerted effort to reach out to teenagers who have summer jobs. And I think that is very interesting and very important. In fact, I have a case just like that that's pending in federal court. So it's awesome to hear that those young teenagers who are having their first jobs, they'll be able to avail themselves of discrimination laws, meaning Title VII, meaning the ADA, meaning ADEA. And I'm just so excited about this article, just the fact that they're reaching out to people who have legitimate concerns, viable claims, and they'll get the help that they need. I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great initiative, and I think you're right. I mean, the sad irony is that some of the populations that need this help the most have the least access to it, right? Because who's getting, high information folks, who also get mistreated at work, they go do their Google search, they figure it out, they get a lawyer or they file it, they can go to the EEOC website and, figure out how to file a charge. But somebody who's disabled or a teenager or someone who's not as facile with, with technology can find themselves really without understanding their options. And as you know, Samantha, there are some weird deadlines in employment law, and depending on the state you're in, in our area, it's 300 days you've got to file a charge, but in some states it's 180 days that you have to file a charge with the EEOC. So there's just so many things that a worker has to know. They have to know, what their rights are, right? They have to know that the EEOC even exists, which a lot
Mhm.
of people don't, right? And they have to know how to, file a charge. And I think the EEOC does a good job of trying to make that accessible, but it's still not easy, right? I
Mhm.
mean, to do that necessarily on your own, and you've got to have the ability to get to the EEOC either
Mhm.
physically or you've got to have a good internet connection to be able to do it. And I think I would not. It would be depressing to hazard a guess how many people having their rights violated at work and they never bring a charge just because they don't know how to. So absolutely, I think It's a great initiative by the EEOC. I really hope I know they're doing kind of a listening tour now. I hope they really put some weight behind this. And, we'll see. It'd be nice if they could get a little more funding to have some more investigators. They're kind of backlogged as it is, and it would be nice for them to be able to get to people more quickly. But, the perfect can't be the enemy of the good. So I think it's just important to get people access to the EEOC at the very least to preserve their rights, while they're continuing to pursue their actions.
Exactly. I also want to take this opportunity to plug the Spiggle Law Firm. During my first year with the Spiggle Law Firm, I had the opportunity to participate in the pro bono exercise. And again, that's reaching out to folks who probably couldn't necessarily afford an attorney and they're not aware of the process. And we had so many people attend that Saturday, and we were able to share that information with them. I'm a full supporter of any agency, any organization, any law firm who reaches out to the underserved.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we're happy to do, and to reach those folks who, for whatever reason, haven't been able to find a lawyer, or like you said, can't afford one, because we usually, particularly for an attorney, get charged for those consults. Mm-hmm. And to be able to reach folks, at that, to be able to give them a no cost access to an attorney is something that it's really sort of our, part of our mission, and we enjoy doing. And the last thing we did, I think it was a great turnout, and people had a lot of interest. I will say, for folks out there, there are other law firm clinics. There are other, not-for-profits who do clinics, particularly in the DC area. There is, Virginia. There are some too, either with law schools or legal aid. And I know legal aid is also underfunded and overworked, but they certainly know what the EEOC is and can help you file a charge. So you don't necessarily have to hire, a private sector lawyer to be able to at least get your foot in the door with the EEOC. And I think it's a good opportunity too to talk about, contingency fee representation, and what the difference between contingency and pro bono. I think a lot of people understandably get that mixed up. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, in fact, right now we're not doing a lot of contingency, but the difference between contingency and hourly, of course, contingency is where the client does not pay legal fees up front, and there's an arrangement where the law firm or the attorney will get a percentage of whatever the settlement or the verdict or the judgment is. And that helps if you're not able to afford an hourly fee, and that's an option that's available to a lot of clients out there. But I just had a case that went through the contingency settlement, and the client was happy with the results. Either way, you get great representation.
Yeah. And I think, we do probably 20% or less of our cases are on contingency, just because with employment law, the risk is very high, right? Then we're going to lose at summary judgment. So we are, and I think a lot of firms are, very selective of cases that we take on contingency. That doesn't mean that somebody doesn't have, their rights haven't been violated. Like, if your case is not taken on contingency, doesn't mean that you don't have a case. It just means that law firm is evaluated, that they're not willing to take on that risk, because when it's contingency, the law firm and the attorney is taking on that risk too. They're putting in a lot of time and a lot of effort, and they take on the risk that they can get that there'll be no settlement, which, or no victory, which does happen. But you can always, that's what you need, is a contingency fee representation. I mean, just tell the law firm up front. If somebody comes to us and tells us that, then we analyze the case differently. We try to give people an up or down pretty quickly. So if they don't want to, if we're not able to offer them a contingency fee representation, then they can go look for another firm who might have a different risk profile and might look at the case differently. And then there are, just what we call pro bono, which is just straight out free, right? You're not taking the attorney's not taking any cut. Those are really rare. Most firms, well, some of the bigger firms will do a limited number of pro bono cases. Some law firm clinics. Yeah, we got a lot of law firms in the DMV area, so you can call the those law schools and see if they have clinics that help people pro bono. I know, where I went, they had one for criminal defense. They had one for housing. They had one for legislation. They had a number of different pro bono clinics, and some private law firms will do it as well. And then, of course, there are places like legal aid that most of their services are completely pro bono.
Yeah. Actually, that's where I spent my summer, one of my first summers working for legal aid. So I'm very familiar with legal aid.
Yes, yes, yes. Those guys do God's work, and as you know, it's not easy. They've got huge caseloads,
Yeah.
and because the demand is so great. But I would also say for folks out there, who are having trouble finding contingency representation, can't afford, an hourly representation. The good thing about this outreach that the EEOC is doing, it's entirely possible to file your charge on your own, right? I mean, most people at the EEOC file a charge. There's no cost to do it. You don't need a lawyer. It helps, but you don't need a lawyer to do it. And the good thing about it is it stops the statute of limitations clock. So, if you're in a state that's 180 days, or if you're in our area and you've got 300 days, you can file your charge with the EEOC, and then it stops that clock. And then, one of the kind of the silver lining of a problem with the EEOC is they take so long to investigate your case and issue a decision that it gives you some more time to find a lawyer. And sometimes we have people come to us who, they've got mediation before the EEOC. So they've done it on their own. They filed on their own. There's going to be mediation. It's voluntary with the EEOC, as you know, and so the defendant has to agree to it. But they've got one where the defendant company is like, yeah, I'll mediate this case. Then you can just hire a lawyer just for that, just to parachute in, to help you try to get the case settled. So
You brought that up, Tom,
yeah,
because I've had cases where we've signed the retainer and I represent the client up and through what's called the demand stage, where we send a letter out, and when the time comes to go through the EOC process, some can't afford it to
yes,
retain an attorney for that portion of it. So I give them advice how they handle it going forward. And like you said, that process could be free. You don't necessarily need an attorney for it, or you can have an attorney later on in the process, like mediation. I just told a client that yesterday. The EOC process is available to you, and you can get it started on your own.
yeah, absolutely. And I think your point at the beginning was a good one, about the statutes that the EEOC enforces, because they don't do all employment law claims. They don't do wage and hour. They don't do, FMLA cases, but they do most of the big all federal discrimination statutes. So if it's race, sex, disability, age, the EEOC is going to be the place where you have to file a charge. You can't go to court and file. You have to with the 25-cent lawyer word is exhaust administrative remedies before you can go to court. So, and I'll say another thing for folks, because when you're, as you well know, when you're facing a problem at work, it's so stressful. I mean, and you've got other things that you are worried about, your own job, your own kids, like to have to sort through these laws can be very difficult. So again, you don't have to hire a lawyer on a full retainer. You can pay for an hour consult. Like we provide hour consults, and usually within that time, an attorney can pretty easily, at least give you the high level, right? Like this is kind of what your claims are. This is the direction that, if you're going to file with an agency, this is how much time you have to file. And then there are other, avvo.com is another website that you can go to, where often you can get, it's been a while since I've been on the site, but it used to be, and I believe they still do this. You can post questions at no cost, and attorneys will answer. Sometimes you get what you pay for. You got to be a little bit buyers beware. But you'll get attorneys respond to it, and then you can check their profile and see, like, okay, is this an employment law attorney? Is this somebody that knows what they're talking about? And I believe they also have a lower cost. I don't know what the dollar amount is, but a lower cost ability to schedule a consult with attorneys who are a part of that program. We're not a part of that program just because we choose not to, but some do. Another great resource particularly for people in Northern Virginia, actually anywhere in Virginia, or if you have a claim in Virginia, is the Fairfax County Bar. They have a lawyer referral service. You can just type that into Google. We have it up on our website, the Fairfax County Bar lawyer referral service. They will connect you with a lawyer. Again, they're lawyers who are part of their program. And I forget what it is, but it's a lower dollar amount that you can have a phone consult with the attorney, which again can be just a good way if you're just trying to figure out, what do I have here? Which direction do I go? And you have limited resources, that can be a good one. And most bar associations, Fairfax Bar is really, and it's an exceptionally good one, but most bar associations have something similar. They tend to be less robust, and that you call up the bar and they just put your name on a wheel, and whoever your name ends up on, like they call you, they don't. But it's worth checking out. I know the DC Bar has a similar program, and again, it can be a good resource. I think some people have the view incorrectly that, wow, people on these programs, they're not the best lawyers. But it's a great way to find really up and coming talent, people who are trying to get established, who don't have, kind of the resources that we do. And so their phone isn't ringing as much like we used to be. Years ago, I did lawyers referral through Fairfax and got, had some really great success, had some good cases come through there. So there are options. But I think you're right. I mean, I think it's great that the EEOC is getting out there and because you got to know that you have the options first before you can pursue them.
Exactly. I think it's great that they're going to have this information sent to them, given to them, so they can address whatever's happening in their place of employment.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Samantha. Anything else you want to cover on this one, or did we?
No, thank you, Tom. It was a pleasure speaking with you again. I look forward to the next time.
Absolutely. I always enjoy it with you, Samantha. It's great information. Well, I will let you get back to the next thing on your desk.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining this episode. If you want more of this kind of information, you can go to our free resource, thecareerrocket.io. You can get on our email list there and get a free email every week where we talk about the latest and greatest in employment law and other tips and tricks on how to keep your career on an upward trajectory. Everything from what the job market is like to how to do a resume and other, those sorts of things, and other resources for making you the best and brightest in your workplace. And if you found this episode helpful, please, let a friend know, forward it to a friend. We're trying to help as many people as we possibly can. Thanks so much, and good luck out there.